I'm Gil Kennedy, President and CEO of Har-Co Credit Union. Welcome to podcast number 8. I have the privilege today of speaking with Trish Heidenreich, who's Director of Economic Development here in the Town of Bel Air. Trish, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you for taking this opportunity to speak with us today and educate our members and viewers on the role of economic development.
I'm delighted to be here.
Well, Trish, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I have been the Director of Economic Development for the Town of Bel Air for 14 years now. So I've seen a lot of changes in this area over that time. My background, I go back into economic development from a long time ago. 1991 was when I first dabbled into it, and then worked in a couple of different marketing type fields, and then ended up here at the Town of Bel Air. When I moved here, fell in love with the town and wanted to get involved, and was fortunate to be hired by the town and be working in this position since 2006.
We're so happy to have you in the town.
Thank you.
You've done an excellent job. Look at the growth that you've experienced. Tell me about the role of economic development. You know, we have that term, but explain to our viewers and members what economic development means and the role that you play.
Yes, absolutely. So I always tell people that economic development sounds very fancy, but if you switch those words around, it's really development of the economy. So when we think about a private company and you're developing the revenues for a private company and you're marketing and you're doing all those different things to enhance those revenues, likewise in the public sector, what you're doing as an economic developer is you're trying to enhance that quality of life for all the citizens. You're trying to raise the benchmark of the available resources and the available assets that are within a community to enhance someone's quality of life. So economic development in terms of the traditional academic description is it's a set of policies, procedures, and activities that seek to enhance the quality of life and increase the tax base for the community. So that's sort of the basic of it, but it's so much more. There's so many more elements that people don't realize are involved. Everything from the marketing, which is sort of the basic obvious thing, to real estate development and reuse, to business recruitment and retention, to brownfields development, to foreign direct investment and exporting. So a lot of different things. Everything that makes the world go round is part of economic development.
Well, that's a lot on your plate, I'm sure. Well, how has that changed in this time of COVID? And is economic development still going on?
Very much so. In fact, we're so busy, and part of the busy that we're experiencing is specifically in this time of COVID is there's two things really when you look at this type of situation, a pandemic situation, or any kind of what you would classify as a disaster. There's two elements to it. One is the safety and survival element, and the other one is the economic survival. So as economic developers, we were basically thrown into a triage situation where as long as everyone is safe, and of course that's the police department and the other, the health department and all that, we were looking at how can we distribute the funding that's available from the CARES Act, so from the federal level, the state level, the county level, how can we redistribute that, or how should we be redistributing that to maintain the highest level of sustainability for all of our commercial businesses in town. So more so than ever, we have been in a position where we have been going, for 12 hours a day to really make sure that everybody has that survival capability on that secondary level. Again, health and safety being primary, and then secondary, that economic aspect. So the interesting thing too about economic development at this particular time is it is a shifting landscape. So the things that we were working on and that were important pre-COVID have changed very much now with COVID. So your priorities have to change.
And certainly with the uncertainty and the lack of clarity as it relates to, I guess, economic development. I mean, obviously, concerning yourself on survivability is extremely important. But when we look into 2021, are those activities still going on in preparing for 2021? And how have you seen that evolve?
Well, definitely those activities are still going on into 2021. So a good economic development team is going to look at two different things economically. They're going to look at a short-run curve and they're going to look at a long-run curve. So even previously we looked at what are we doing now that's enhancing the economy and that's going to create greater benefits going down the road, and what do we think things are going to look like in 5 years from now, and how do we adjust accordingly to get to that premium or optimum experience. Like we said, the goal is to create an enhanced quality of living for everybody, to avoid disinvestment in the community. So how do we get there? So we still take that same approach. Going into 2021, I think what's a little different, again, where I was saying that, we have to rearrange our priorities, is that we're looking at it in a different way. And I think maybe because the microscope now is shifted much more to realizing that even a small town like Bel Air is impacted by the events that happen globally. So I have this little saying that I say to myself, and that is, act local, think global. And what I mean by that, and I know that Har-Co has actually taken on that perspective as well with your community investment pledge, which I think is really quite amazing and very forward thinking, is that you want to act locally. So you want to physically make your purchases locally and be very conscious of that, because even though you have access to the internet and social media and all that sort of stuff, and you have the ability to make purchases from England, Hong Kong, Canada, Mexico, whatever the case may be, you really want to keep your investment dollars within the community. So you want to act locally that way, but you also want to think globally in terms of understanding that even though we're this adorable, beautiful town and it's just such a great place to raise your family, it's a great place to invest in real estate, it's a great place to really be, you also have to be aware of the impact and the activities that are going on a global level and how that's going to impact you as well. So to be thinking globally and knowing what to prepare for is some of the stuff that we have had to, like when I say we've shifted our perspective, we're keeping an eye on what's going on to ensure that we can always make the best decisions for the town of Bel Air. I say that I'm the steward of the community's assets. So it's my responsibility to make sure that the actions that I take and the decisions that I'm making are going to impact the community in the best possible way it can. And so I have to be aware of everything that's going on. Even, for example, I'll bring up one of the biggest impacts that I think we're going to see for 2021 is what's going on in the banking industry. So the banking industry very much has had to change in the last, let's just say 10, 12 years, and we go back to 2008 and just all of the changes that happened then, and I see a big shift in the banking industry. What I see profoundly in this year and going forward into 2021 is how banks are going to, like as you're doing with the community investment pledge, they are going to be focusing on the community, thinking global in terms of what's going out there, but how their products and their tools on how they help the community. I think there's going to be, I'm sure, a lot of creative thought going into it, having to put aside some of the traditional philosophies of banking and thinking a lot more differently because the needs are going to be different.
Yeah, certainly the solution sets will have to be analyzed. We have, banks tend to be very traditional in the product offerings, but if you think about it, financial institutions provide solutions to people's needs. And if people's needs begin to change as relates to their own personal situation or the economic situation, then the solution sets may have to change. And I think we're no different than any other business in that we have to be sharp in understanding and being in the community so we offer the best solution sets to what's going on with people's needs. So I'm sure from an economic development perspective, you're very have to be very cognizant about that as well.
Absolutely, because one of the biggest tasks for an economic developer is to provide access to capital to your businesses, and especially for new businesses that don't have a history with a commercial bank or don't really have necessarily the kind of background information or the long-term relationship with a bank. Bringing them forward and introducing them to the opportunities for capital and access to capital is important. Likewise, in banking, to be able to, I think, not only provide that access to capital, but creating the flow. So how the flow of that capital is going to work out in the long run is going to be really, really important too.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. I know on your website you talk about working with partners such as the Downtown Alliance, the Harford County Economic Development,
Yes.
and the state. Can you talk a little bit about those types of partnerships? And I'm sure they were critical, particularly as it relates to this period that we've started back in March 16th.
Yes, very much so. So partnership and teamwork is so critical. And you gave me a lovely compliment at the beginning of this interview where you said, look at, how fantastic it is. I really cannot take credit for that. It really is teamwork, and it's the collective effort of everyone, of which I'm just a very small part of. And I'm happy to be a part of that, but it really takes everybody to make it happen. So my partners, we have a well-rounded kind of partnership scenario where, for example, the Bel Air Downtown Alliance, great partner, their focus is on historic downtown Bel Air, so the Main Street, Bond Street area, creating the activities and programs that will enable those smaller businesses that love to set up shop in historical buildings to really help them thrive and survive and create that community feel which brings out families and children and just creates that fun atmosphere. So they really focus on that, and they are a great economic development partner on that level. So that is sort of their microscope focus, which is very, very important to the Town of Bel Air. Also the Chamber of Commerce, so I work very closely with the Chamber of Commerce, and they are a Harford County Chamber of Commerce, but they definitely have a lot of focus on the Town of Bel Air, so they have been a great resource. Also, the Harford County Office of Economic Development, so Len Parrish and his team, amazing group of people. They are there. They really help us navigate a lot of the higher level details with regard to interactions with state agencies and the Small Business Administration. They house the Small Business Development Center in their pool of talent, and that is really helpful to us to help businesses develop their business plan and things of that nature. They also provide, a good knowledge base for, again, access to capital and things like that. I have the Maryland Department of Commerce, which is also a great team member on that higher state level. So work very closely with them, as well as the Department of Housing and Community Development. And then on the state level as well, the Maryland Economic Development Association, which has a lot of resources. I meet with all the economic development directors that are part of that association. So we exchange ideas and have a lot of think tanks. That's really helpful. And then on that national and global level, I work very closely with the International Economic Development Council, and I chair their sustainability committee. So I really see what's happening across the nation and globally as well. So I consider all those people my partners. Of course, obviously what's in Harford County are my closest partners, the team that I work with the most. And again, it's really about all of us working it together. So they're a huge part of the success of what you see in the Town of Bel Air.
But clearly the importance of all those partnerships and those connection points were in the spotlight during this COVID period. I'm sure it was, fortunately for us, we have somebody like you that has those connection points with the position that you have in order to bring, the solution sets and the clarity relating to this, this pandemic. I mean, it rolls around in March and the world begins to change pretty significantly. So those connection points pay dividends, I'm sure, in order not only for survivability, but also for the future into 2021, 2022 and beyond.
Absolutely, because the challenge, I think, on any level for anyone, economic development or any industry right now, is that, again, you can't do it alone and you can't make a quantum leap on your own. So when you talk about sort of connecting the dots, all those partners are the dots. And for me to get over to a very successful implementation of anything that we take on strategically and to reach those goals, I can't do that in one quantum leap. I have to do it by connecting the dots. So it is, and moving forward into the years to come, it's going to be even more so in terms of we realize that we need each other to make things happen. And in that sense, we are a community. We're a large community. I think
we all have that common unity.
Yes, right? Exactly, yeah.
Well, listen, I wanted to ask, I know you, in October, you have a various number of prestigious awards. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that and what will happen again this year?
Oh, that's a darn good question. So every year we have, and I believe it's been 19 years, that we have chosen a Bel Air Business of the Year. And also we have an award that goes to a architectural firm and a design company and a construction company for good quality design. And that we call the Archer Bull, and that is based on two prominent architects that lived here in Bel Air and contributed significantly to the architectural landscape of the town. So we have those two awards in October, and we're hoping to move forward and have winners assigned to those awards. However, whether we'll actually have those awards in person is a big question and is hard to say. So those conversations are going on right now. But we do like to acknowledge the businesses that take that extra step in the community, get involved in the community, not only contribute to the economic vitality with regard to what they do as a business, but also their contributions to the people and the nonprofits and things of that nature that exist as well.
Trish, I'd like to end I always ask this question of all the people that have been so kind to do these podcasts. So what would you like to leave us with as it relates to a thought or a message for the future?
That's a great question, first of all. I wish I could say something really profound and amazing, but I'm going to say something very, very simple, because it's true, is that you should always go forward hopeful and not fearful. So you have two choices in life. You can go forward in any situation fearful, or you can go forward hopeful. And I think that when you make that decision to go hopeful, new opportunities open up for you that you never could have imagined, because you're creating the environment that allows you the best opportunities for success. Because when you go forward in a fearful way, you close yourself off. So even when I'm dealing with businesses perhaps that are concerned because they're struggling and they're worried about keeping their doors open, I believe it's my responsibility to give them the best support, cheerleading, coaching in that moment that I can, and to lead them hopeful for the future versus fearful. So I would say that's what I would leave you with.
Well, that is great perspective. Trish, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and talk to us and educate our members and our viewers about the topic of economic development. I'm hopeful that all of you are able to share this with your family and friends and business owners that you may know, because I think there are some very powerful stuff that you told us today, and I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, and I really appreciate what you and Har-Co are doing in the community, because I know you're very community-minded, and I think you know, having Har-Co and the approach that you've taken on since you've come on board is, again, one of those great things that will propel us into the future with a lot of positive, hopeful outlook. So thank you.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.